Hi, welcome to another episode of Couch Tales with Shirls, a show where we share a story to tell a tale. Today we are joined by Tilo, a social worker who will talk to us about grief and how it affects our mental state. So come and have a sip of coffee with us. Hi Tilo, welcome to Couch Tales. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you please kindly take through the viewers what you do and who you are?
Okay, well, hi Shirley.
Hi.
Thank you very much for having me.
Indeed, a pleasure.
I'm excited and nervous all at the same time to be here.
Feel at home, baby. Feel at home.
But good evening to the viewers. My name is Tilo. I'm a social worker by profession. I have over, I think about 14 years experience in the field. Not necessarily only practicing as a social worker. I've worked for NGOs where I've done primarily a lot of work around HIV counseling. I've worked with orphans and vulnerable children. I've also counseled individuals that have gone through issues around substance abuse and so forth. So I've quite a varied amount of experience when it comes to different aspects of social work.
Very interesting though.
Yes. So, but today, I'm here to talk about another very sensitive and much needed topic.
Yeah, we will be tackling on grief today.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I personally experienced it last year, and I had to deal with it. And can you please kindly take through the viewers about what grief is, if you can?
Grief. It's very difficult to explain what grief is, because
Yes.
People experience grief differently. But grief is something that is very personal to somebody. When you are mourning, you are going through grief. Grief is also something that's very, very strong and sometimes very overwhelming to the person that is experiencing it. And most of the time when we think about grief, we only think about grief in the sense of loss when you lose somebody through death.
Yeah.
But grief can be so many other things. You can be grieving anything like maybe the end of a relationship. You could be grieving, an unmet expectation.
Yes.
For example, you were hoping to either get the job or get a specific vehicle or a house or anything.
Yeah.
And then that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that in itself is grief.
Yeah.
So, depending on what you are going through, we have so many different ways of how we can define grief. But the only thing that I can say is probably that grief is something that is very personal.
Yes.
And we all experience it differently, and we all go through it differently.
Yeah. How can we help people that go through grief?
I think by being present for the person that is going through it.
Can I say something there?
Yes.
Quickly.
Yes.
Being present, that's a good point, because I remember personally when I went through the mourning and the grieving stage, when I lost my daddy last year, you feel so alone.
Yeah.
And you feel so helpless. And it's like you need someone by you. Because normally, as Christians, when you go through things, people will say, pray about it. But it's not necessarily the praying part. It's like you need a hug. Or you just need someone to have a cup of coffee with. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I believe that being present for that person who is grieving is very important. Being present physically, being present emotionally. Like you are saying, just knowing that there is somebody who is there for you and somebody who wants to help you go through your grieving process. I believe also not creating false comfort for somebody. Many of us have experienced grief. And speaking about personal experiences,
Yeah.
I would be very fast to tell somebody, for example,
Yes.
it's okay.
Yeah.
It was time that it's better that the person
better.
is gone.
Yes.
They were suffering, or with time,
Yeah.
that until I experienced the loss of my own father,
Yes.
I also understood that when somebody tells me
Yeah.
it's okay, it's not okay.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what I'm going through.
Yeah.
When you are saying that it will get better with time. You don't know what my time period is.
Yeah. No one knows.
So it's also very important that we don't create a false sense of comfort.
Yeah.
Let us, it's better to be present, to be open, to be honest, and say that, you know what, it's going to be difficult, but with time you will get through it. We need to give them reassurance, and not a false sense of comfort. But also, I believe, how can you help somebody going through grief? It's sort of to say, how can you relieve some of that pressure that they are going through? Let's say, for example, it's a woman who has lost her husband. You can maybe, offer things like, maybe do you need some food? Let me bring you some food.
Yes.
Do you need help with getting your children to school?
Yes.
Do you need help with, those things?
Because she's all alone.
Because she's not all alone.
Yes.
And most of the time people feel, if I leave you alone,
then you will be okay.
You will be okay.
Which is so not true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes just doing that little bit,
yes,
it also helps this person just to know that I have people who are there. I have people who are present. I have people who are acknowledging that I'm going through this process, and that they are actually there to want to help me, to make sure that I'm okay, and that I'll be okay to help my children, and eventually be okay to get back to some sense of normalcy.
Normalcy, yeah. Besides death and losing someone, haven't Tilo gone through any personal experience with grief? Something you can share with the viewers about?
I think like I rightfully said in the beginning, grief can be different things.
Yeah.
And grief can be different to different people.
Yes.
I mentioned about losing my father, that was, my siblings and I grieved differently.
Yeah.
And I remember my mother, I come from a Noshibambo background.
Okay.
And I think as Africans, many of us have very similar ways of mourning.
Yeah, we do.
Where your parent has to be put in a central room and they have to sit on that
mattress.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody's coming there and sort of giving their condolences to the grieving widow.
Yes.
And people don't understand how overwhelming
that can be.
It
seriously can be.
It's very overwhelming, and as you are trying to get better, somebody comes and says, "My condolences, I'm so sorry," and that pain just comes back again.
It does.
And my mother said to us, "I don't want you guys anywhere near me. I just want, if your friends are here, go out there and be with your friends, and I want you to be happy. I don't want you to be sitting next to me, because as you're sitting next to me, it makes it harder for me because I need to focus on you as well."
Yeah.
And we did that. We were out there. Our friends came there to comfort us, and we were laughing. And the sad thing is, people will come back and say, "Oh my goodness, these kids look like they are happy that their father died,"
which is not the case,
because they are just laughing, and which is not the case. We grieve differently. And that's how my mother was grieving. To sort of say, "I want you guys to be okay. Because I can't be worrying about you and worrying about myself.
Yeah.
So, and we also have to worry about my mother, about our mother, to make sure that if this is how she wants to grieve, we should respect that.
Yes.
And I think also maybe to talk about a different type of grief.
Yes.
When I was younger, I had a appendectomy. I had an appendix, and the doctors.
So painful.
Nobody knew what it was. Again, being African and being traditional.
Yes.
My parents took it to my grandmother, and she was there,
trying her things,
rubbing my stomach, thinking probably it's like a inflamed intestine or something. And I wasn't getting better.
Oh,
so eventually my mom said, you know what, my child is in so much pain, I'm going to take her to the hospital.
Oh.
And we got there and it was quite critical.
Wow,
and I had to be taken immediately to surgery. And I remember, I think I was about 11 or 12. And I told the doctor, I remember, like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I told the doctor that, doctor, please, I'm still growing. Please don't cut me badly. Those were my exact words. And so many years later, at this age that I am, I still remember exactly what I told that doctor.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next day and I had this whole bandage around my stomach. And I was just like,
so sorry.
So I'm just like,
so sorry.
I'm just like, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
I got an operation.
Yes.
And when they remove the bandages, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And when I had to go for my dressing, and the nurse is removing the bandages, and I look at my stomach, and all I see is this huge scar on my stomach.
Don't say.
And I'm just like, what's going on here?
What is this?
And I couldn't make peace with it. I got better, I healed, but every time I looked down on the scar, I just looked like this man. I felt like an animal that was slaughtered. And I'm sort of thinking, I'm 12 years old.
Yeah.
I'm at the most impressionable time of my life.
Yes.
I still have to.
And that probably also affected
my self-esteem. I went through so much trauma, and it affected how I dressed. It affected how I would go out with my friends, and I grieved because at that point in time, I was a very confident young girl that felt I had the most beautiful body in the world.
Yes.
And to a certain extent, I probably feel I still do.
You still do, yes.
When it comes to that aspect of my life up to today, it has also affected me when it comes to romantic relationships, because I am so conscious
of it.
But when you are with somebody, they don't even say anything about it. But because of who I am, what I went through, and people sort of go, "Come on, it's been how many years? Why aren't you over it?"
But when you are in it, people don't understand.
When you are in it, people don't understand.
They don't understand.
Yes, and so, and there are stages to grieving, and we can talk about that later. And sometimes you go through it. Sometimes you get stuck in a particular phase. And for me, and I always say that it's a bad thing for me to say this, but this particular doctor, I had a huge hatred for him, and it is such a bad thing. But I grew up as a young girl, and I grew up to be a young adult, and I grew up to be a matured older woman, but I never made peace with this part of my body. And
you still didn't have a closure.
I didn't have closure. And then the one time I found out that unfortunately the doctor took his own life. And I don't feel good about it. What I'm gonna say. But I want to be honest, because I know a lot of people who've gone through different things probably feel and say the same thing to themselves internally.
Yes.
And I said to myself, this man killed himself? I was like, thank God. That's what I said. And then I said, God forgive me. But at that point in time, that's how I felt.
Yeah, because you were hurt.
I was hurt, and I didn't
realize.
I told him this. And I didn't realize that I've been carrying all of this trauma for so many years into my adult life, and I never made peace with it. And I thought that me hearing that he died, and me saying, thank God, deserved it.
I'm sorry, Tilo.
He would give me closure.
No, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and I'm sorry that I don't know whether I don't know how I have to put it, but I'm really sorry that you really had to go through that. It's really painful, especially because you were a teenager.
I wasn't even a teenager.
You were not really a teenager,
no.
but you were gonna be a teenager some other time, right? You were gonna grow into it.
Yes.
Something that I wanna ask: if people don't get help, how does this affect their mental state?
If people don't get help, again, it depends on when you're talking about help. What are we talking about?
Probably counseling.
Are we talking about counseling?
Yes.
Are we talking about just getting the support to help me go through
if they probably
what I'm going through?
Yeah.
Because counseling is not for everybody.
Yes.
Therapy is not for everybody.
Yeah.
As much as we would want people to go to therapy, it is something that's also very foreign to many of us.
Yeah.
And
many Africans. Yeah.
Yes, but for many people going through grief, therapy is not the first thing I'm going to think about.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things, but coming back to your question, if one doesn't address the issue,
yes,
or you start to drown and not process the fact that you are grieving, not to acknowledge that you are grieving, many of us tend to fall into depression. And depression can also be in so many different ways. You can just be depressed because of what you are going through and you are struggling to go through it. But when you do not take the time to actually acknowledge, it can lead to what we call clinical depression.
Oh, wow.
And clinical depression is where you start to become anxious. You develop so much anxiety around so many things. Your self-esteem is affected.
Yes.
And that in itself, if it's not addressed, can lead to actually it becoming a medical condition.
Yeah.
So most of the time we try to really see how we can help people that are going through grief. And like I said before, by being present.
Yes.
By providing them factual support. So that people understand that it's okay. Don't tell me it's going to be okay. No. We need to come to a point where we say it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
It's okay for you to go through what you are going through.
Yes.
It's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to act out. That is how it's going to help you grieve.
Okay. Can Tilo tell us what are the different grieving phases that people go through?
I think, like I said in the beginning, grief is very personal, and each one experiences grief differently. Now, there is a very well-known psychologist by the name of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She is basically this person who came up with these stages of grief, and I just want to read something that she says, she said in terms of what these stages are, and she says that, and I feel like it's very important before I speak about them, that these stages were never meant to help tuck messy emotions into neat packages.
Wow.
They are responses to loss that many people have, but there is not a typical response to loss, as there is no typical loss. Our grieving is as individual as our lives.
That's very true.
So it's important for us to understand that. So even if it's two people who've gone through the similar grief,
yes,
their grieving will not be the same. Whether I've lost a partner, whether we've both lost a job, whether we've both lost a child, or anything, how we grieve will never be the same. So we need to understand that grieving is very personal and it's very individualistic.
Okay.
So for the viewers, I think also because we have such a very short time together, maybe in another episode we can talk about it. I'll just sort of, explain to them, what the different stages are, and just make sure that, Shirley will have a link somewhere down below, as you guys say on YouTube.
Definitely.
We will provide the link down below. In terms of where they can do more research. But in terms of grief, there are more, but there are the typical 5 stages where we talk about denial. When that loss happens to you, you go through a phase of denial. And that's where we are talking about when you don't deal with that, that's also where depression can also come in, right? And then we go into, where you are angry, where why is this happening? You are angry about everything and blaming yourself and blaming the whole world, and then you start going into bargaining, where you talk to God, where you talk to anybody to say, why couldn't it have been me? Why did it have to happen to this person? If you do this, I will do that. Things like that. And then once you go through that phase, you then sort of go, okay, maybe this one happened. You sort of go into, okay, maybe it's about time I start to accept
acceptance,
what is happening. And when you come into acceptance, it's when you start to find peace. But what's very important to understand is that these stages also are not in sequence.
Yes.
You can go through them in that sequence. You might only go through one. You might go from the first one to the last one, from the last one to the third one, to the second one. You go through them as you go through them. But I feel it's very important, for, as I mentioned again, for our viewers, to just take the time, particularly those who are currently grieving, or haven't yet processed a particular loss, just to take the time to go through the link that we will add onto the video. And I believe it will provide them with so much insight that you can't do during this episode.
Speaking of phases, I remember I think I went through that phase of being angry. I dealt with a lot of anger. But I'm still not there yet. I'm still not okay yet. But I was very angry, remember? And tell us, Tilo, where can people get support locally? Which facilities can they visit to get some? Because we spoke about physical support.
I think the first thing that many of us do is we try to go into our own shell as a way to support, as a way to help ourselves, but also as a way to protect ourselves. Because everybody wants to come and give you their two piece in how you should grieve and how much time you need to take to grieve. There's even research out there that says grieving can take as long as 24 months before you start making peace with what has happened or what you are going through. But on top of that, I think many of us intuitively we resort to reaching out to friends or loved ones when it comes to grieving. And then obviously, if you are religious, some of us find comfort in our faith. Whether it's speaking to your pastor or a fellow how do we call them, church member, or a woman of God, or a man of God, or all of that. If you are not religious, you can find other ways in terms of how you deal with your grief. One thing that many of us take for granted is the importance of writing. There's so much peace that comes from journaling our emotions. Comes so much peace in terms of just writing down how you feel that sometimes you cannot express to the next person. But also, when it becomes too much, I think we also need to acknowledge that there are therapists that we can approach, that we can talk to. Because not everybody wants to talk to somebody that they know, because we always go like, you will not understand. You think you understand, but you don't. So I just want to talk to somebody who doesn't know me, who cannot judge me, and who can just listen. Because most of the time, we just want somebody that can listen to us. We just want to vent, But somebody will then say, but I can't afford therapy. I don't have medical aid or all of that. Therapists are everywhere. You and I can be a sort of therapy. You understand? But also, if you do not have medical aid, if you cannot go to a private psychologist or a or a social worker, for example, we have all our government facilities, all our hospitals.
Yes.
We are blessed to have social workers in all the 14 regions of our country. We have social workers. You know, most workplaces also now have come to the table where they have occupational therapists or wellness officers, where the employee is more than welcome to go to that person and sort of say, I'm going through something. But many of us are not comfortable doing that. You know, we have Lifeline. Lifeline is also a very beautiful outlet because it's a telephonic service. You can call in. It's a toll-free number. You can call in anywhere from anywhere in the country, and you have therapists who are available 24/7. So we have so many facilities. Sometimes we even have places where you can go and check yourself in.
Nice.
Many people assume that if I go to a facility, it's because I'm struggling with a substance or I'm mentally not okay. But people don't understand this.
Yes.
Sometimes even just checking yourself into a facility for your own mental well-being, for your own peace of mind, is just as important. It's not only for people who are going through some kind of substance or a mental breakdown. No, sometimes you also just need to check out of the world and check in with yourself. So I believe that we have so many avenues that we can explore when it comes to where we can go for help. We just need to want to, or when you are ready to explore those avenues.
Tilo, I wish I had a lot of time with you. I learned so much in these few minutes. But before you leave Couch Tales, can you please share a message to my viewers? Do you have anything you want to say for the last time?
I think I just want to say that, as I said, that first of all, grief is a personal experience. We all grieve differently. Grief has no rules, right? You grieve how you want to grieve. Also, the pain of loss is profound. You must go through it. You cannot suppress it, because when you do, when it comes out, it takes over so much of your life, right? And that grief comes in waves, and you need to be okay to go through those waves. Don't be shy. Don't shy away from your grief, because only you can go through it, and only you know when it's time for you to make peace and to move on. And that, you know what, it's okay. Therapy is not for everyone. Life is not fair. But when you are ready, you will know when it's time to step out and to become your own personal self again. So that is basically what I would want to leave with your viewers today.
Thank you so much, Tilo. Can I give you a hug?
Yes.
Thank you for coming. This was so good. This was so good. Thank you so much. I wish we can meet up again and tackle some more issues. There's so much we can share with our viewers. And once again, thanks for being here.
You're very welcome. I'm sure we will have more opportunities to
talk. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something from today's topic. I hope to see you soon. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share.